Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language and Canal de International. I'm called Morinzi. We begin with our top stories. The transport trade union leaders have announced a complete boycott of the upcoming Labour Day on motive that the government does not want to resolve the many problems. Talking to the press this day in Yaoundé, the transport frontliners say they are giving government another month to address their plight or impact on a nationwide strike action. And with frustrations already expressed by the population on high cost of living in Cameroon, the government has stepped in to reduce tensions. A decision signed by Trade Minister Luc Magloire and inhabitants of the Panda have unanimously rejected a ministerial order signed by the Minister of Land Tenure to reclassify the 44 hectares of land to a family in Dogbati. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. The transport trade union leaders have announced a complete boycott of the upcoming Labour Day on motive that the government does not want to resolve their problems. Talking to the press this day in Yaoundé, the transport frontliners say they are giving government another 1 month to resolve their problems or they embark on a nationwide strike action. More in the following story.
According to transport syndicate leaders, their numerous demands tabled before the government for over a month have fallen on deaf ears. And to such, the trade unionists say no Labour Day celebrations on their part.
To call for boycott of the Labour Day in Cameroon, because we have realized that every time that we trade unions have an agreement with our government, this agreement are not implemented.
Taxi drivers and commercial motorbike riders in the city of Yaoundé say the disorder that reigns within the transport sector with clandestine transport on a geometric rise is putting them into a very difficult situation.
Ça ne se passe pas bien. Les taxis, les personnels travaillent déjà même plus que nous-mêmes les taximans. Puisqu'on a aligné là, eux-mêmes ils s'alignent exactement comme nous pour porter les clients. Nous, on ne s'en sort pas.
Not only are most of the drivers faced with insecurity, especially at night, the trade unionists lament that they can hardly make ends meet.
Our comrades are suffering because today most of our comrades cannot eat in their home.
In a press conference this Thursday in Yaoundé, the trade unionists urged the government to address their plight before things get worse.
We are calling the government to solve our problem. If they don't do it, at the 6th of June, we are going to have a sitting in front of the Prime Minister.
But while the syndicate leaders point fingers at the government for their predicaments, some drivers in the nation's political capital rather blame the disorder on the multiple trade unions, not working for their good, but for personal interest. It is therefore time, they say, to merge all and form one giant structure that can produce efficient results.
And the National Observatory on Climate Change has signed or sealed a cooperation agreement with a research company that was on Wednesday in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. The cooperation is to permit Cameroon better monitor the environment and various risks involved, such as floods, droughts, landslides linked to climate. This was before the Minister of Environment and Nature Protection had appeared. More in the following story.
The bilateral agreement sealed Wednesday will provide the National Observatory on Climate Change under the Ministry of Environment with adequate infrastructure and latest equipment that will allow them guard the environment and various risks, such as floods, droughts, landslides, bushfire, among many, linked to climate change, extreme climate events, as well as to strengthen its technical, technological, and human capacities.
Provide to Cameroonians the necessary information to evaluate all the natural disasters that could happen and to prevent them. In food, it will be helpful for forestry and also for all the elements and parameters that affect climate change.
Define a framework of cooperation, consultation, and exchange of information, and added value to the monitoring and evaluation of climate change and monitoring of greenhouse gas emissions.
We will improve this factor 10, even factor 100, because we will be using satellite data in a smart way. What they will do is to find all the necessary tricks and tools to use that data to provide the products that we need for climate change.
The Director General of the National Observatory for Climate Change, Joseph Amate Amogo, signed for ONAC, while Pierre de Gobert signed for the Accra ST Group at the Ministry of Environment. The agreement is for a period of 3 years.
With frustrations already expressed by the population, the government has stepped in to resolve the problem of high costs of living. The decision signed by Trade Minister Luc Magloire suspends the exportation of some consumable products in order to curb shortages. According to economists, the measure might not change the situation on the ground. More on the story with our reporter Gladys Ambo Dibang. Cost of living, and that government has stepped in to reduce tensions already felt in various communities. The decision signed by Trade Minister Luc Magloire suspends the exportation of some consumable products in order to curb shortages. More in the following story with our reporter Gladys Ambo Tiba.
Inasmuch as consumers might heave a sigh of relief following government's immediate measure to suspend until further notice the exportation of products such as rice, wheat flour, cement, refined oil and locally produced cereals, amongst others, to curb shortages, experts believe the decision might not change the situation.
The demand that we have now in the market is not going to change, right? But the production is changing. It's getting down and down. Why? Because of the lack of the material for the production. You see, it is just the impact of the current instability in Europe and worldwide, you see. And I want to take the example of cement. Now you will see that all the cement companies can't produce as they used to do. Why? Just because they don't have the primal materials they use for their production. I will take the example of the clinker.
The best solution, who can be take the long time, is to boost internal production, is to boost the population to usually product and transform the local product.
Apart from raw material being exported for the production of some of these products, experts add these companies depend heavily on diesel fuel for production, and which is currently in short supply.
The lack of gasoil for certain companies that are producing now in Cameroon. You see, if you don't have gasoil to make the production, that will certainly increase the price of their good, because they spend much money to obtain the gasoil that they need to make the engine produce and then sell to the market.
Fears have, however, been discarded on government's decision's impact on tax revenues.
I do not seem to see a very visible or direct link between this and the taxes, but for the fact that tax revenue, especially custom duties on the goods exported, we expect that it will decline.
It is reported that large shipment of rice imported for local consumption are fraudulently re-exported to neighboring countries, including about 40% of rice produced in Cameroon. With experts' analysis, therefore, there are clear indications that government's measure might just be short-term, as many companies might not be able to produce in large quantities following the continuous shortage in diesel fuel.
And the town of Yaoundé has been engulfed with waste once more. The junk here and there for over 4 days now has given the capital city a malignant image, let's just say an nauseating image, as the population pleads for immediate intervention for safety. Beatrice Ngabo paints a picture in markets and road junctions. Her story.
Her ninja face look strange, but her breast to sell her products while coping with the pungent stench coming from the heap of waste behind their backs. Though some 4 days without the garbage collectors seems like eternity for the traders at the popular Moklo market, as living with this trash a long old story. It has even created a valley, chopping off the road here completely. Their cry goes with the fear of how unhealthy this is on them.
Aidez-nous, comme dépassés. Aidez-nous vraiment avec la poubelle là.
Nous on pleure beaucoup. Je vous en prie seulement que pardon, il faut qu'on arrange. Un grand marché Mokolo que la poubelle est encore en pleine route.
Same image here at the Yaoundé Central Market.
C'est un très grand marché, mais c'est sale. On supporte seulement. Tout ce que c'est Dieu seul qui nous protège. La poubelle est là comme vous voyez là. Non, on va vous dire quoi, non, on connaît quoi.
The new look of Yaoundé, as rubbish has adorned the streets, especially from major road junctions. A situation these citizens find hard to digest, especially here at the hotel Le Paradis roundabout, Ngusso neighborhood.
Mais regardez, ce n'est pas normal. Moi, je ne suis pas content de ça dans mon pays.
Stinky, smelly running water have also created their own road. Man at the mercy of refuse. The unpleasant look is gaining grounds, unfortunately, at this time when the garbage collectors have dropped their walking tools and packed their trucks in the name of strike.
Farmers in Ambam, who are mostly youths, have decried the bad state of the roads and absence of bridges over rivers, which they claim retards the economy of that area. Most of them are engaged in large-scale farming, but are challenged at the level of transporting the crops from the markets, from the farms right up to the markets. More in the following story.
According to the World Bank statistics, 60% of Cameroonian population is made up of youths below 25, but researchers say this workforce is relatively unused because most young people find agriculture unattractive. In Ambam, in the Thames Valley, it is a contrary ambience. Here, youths are fully engaged in agriculture as a means of survival. Their main problem is the bad state of the roads and the absence of bridges over rivers, which links up several villages. The main problem is the bad state of the roads. This has rendered our job as farmers a nightmare. It's so difficult transporting crops from the farms right up to the market. Situated some 30 kilometers from the chief town and 42 kilometers from other villages, Ambam remains a hub for agriculture, especially cash crops. Even though a trained teacher, this man engaged fully in agriculture because of lack of employment.
Actuellement, je suis enseignant, mais je suis au chômage non recruté.
I am a trained teacher and unemployed for now. Reason why I engage in agriculture, that is the cultivation of plantains, cocoa and others, just to make ends meet. I could not continue to wait for a white-collar job while my family die of hunger. But the only problem we face here is transporting the crops from the farms to the market is our biggest challenge.
J'étais obligé de me lancer dans l'agriculture puisque c'est ça, seule la terre ne trahit jamais.
Inhabitants are calling on governments to construct bridges over rivers, which is the only way to boost the economy of the area.
And inhabitants in Cameroon's economic city Douala, precisely in Bepanda, have unanimously rejected a ministerial order signed by the Minister of Land Tenure for the reclassification of 44 hectares of land to a family in Dogbati. They say they do not understand why the reclassification has to extend to the Bepanda area. More on the story with our reporter, Stephanie Chin.
A ministerial order signed by the Minister of Land Tenure has retroceded 44 hectares of land to a family in the Dogbati neighborhood in Douala. It is on the state-private territory. These 44 hectares of land in Dogbati has been extended to Bepanda. Consequently, the population of Bepanda have revolted, saying they have gone beyond their limit by encroaching Bepanda. We don't understand why Bepanda Omnispor has suddenly become part of Dogbati. The official boundary between Bepanda and Dogbati is found at a stream separating Bepanda and Dogbati. When Dogbati was created, there was no Bepanda. There is no name like that, so Bepanda came later on. Who is an indigene of Bepanda? The confusion in the official documents is that Joseph Roger Zika, who died 11 years ago, was the representative of the Lokni family. But according to another document from the SCO of Wuri, Mashangwe is recognized as the legitimate representative of the family, who now lords over the wife of the deceased. The representative of the family actually is Dika Kolo. He was chosen by the family. Nge was an errand boy my husband hired to chase flies when he was alive. When all the fake things he was doing came to light, he came for us to sign some documents. Can you sign documents without reading? The divisional officer for Douala 5 has asked the people to calm down while awaiting new recommendations. Bepanda Omnispor is a new battleground, just like Esenge, Yupwe, and Mabanda. Meantime, the population has put up a strong resistance.
And that report by Stephanie Chin brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language. On Canal de International, we have news in the French language with Alain Gislain Kanga coming up at exactly 19:50. But coming up next is the brief with Lil Piaget for me. I will be back same time tomorrow. Good night.